Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. On today's show, we discuss the win at Bournemouth, that cup exit at Fulham, and has the air gone out of Ange Ball. Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. Joining me once again, Gary Diamond.
Morning.
Morning. Is it morning? Yep, just. And Jake Sanders. Hello.
Good afternoon.
No, it's morning, Jake.
It's going to be afternoon when it comes out.
He's upsetting people already.
Right. Busy week at Tottenham Hotspur. We're recording this Thursday, at some point on Thursday. A lot has happened, up, downs. It's been a real week at Tottenham Hotspur. Starting, though, with the women. Their pre-season is underway. They beat London Bees 9-0.
Whoa.
Good win for them. Under 21s have continued their great start to the season. They beat Derby 2-0, I think, last Friday night. And then have gone and beaten Sunderland 3-2 in the Premier League Cup. Donnelly scored a penalty which looked just like a bloke who used to play for us, has gone for Bayern Munich. Forgotten his name. Took it just like him. And Harvey White scored right at the end, 98th minute free kick. And the under 18s, they beat Arsenal 4-2 last week. So women and the youth teams all winning. We'll come to the men's team who've done a bit of that this week and also a bit of not winning. But we'll come to them.
Technically not losing either.
Yeah. Statistically, we're still unbeaten under Ange. So, we'll come back to that.
Wow.
Yeah. You lose on penalties, you draw the match. The match is drawn. Loans, players out. Jed Spence has gone to Leeds, joined Joe Rodon. That's kind of it.
No, you've got Alfie Devine.
Oh, yeah, So we've still got a player in the League Cup.
Yeah.
Alfie Devine at Port Vale. And they've drawn Sutton.
Yep.
You were saying they're the lowest ranked team?
And Dane Scarlett possibly to Ipswich. I believe they're still in the league.
Yeah, but he'll be cup time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So will Alfie Devine win a trophy before
Tottenham? I remember they knocked us out of the FA Cup. I actually talking about this to my dad the other day. They knocked us out of the Cup a few years ago, many years ago, 30 years ago now. Port Vale. No, Port Vale.
Oh, fine, yeah.
Yeah, on a very boggy
We played
pitch.
them since. We played them in the League Cup.
I feel like we did play them again because it came back up.
16, 17 years ago.
good loan for Alfie Devine. There was a bit of chat about whether he should have gone to a championship team.
I think it's more at his level and age. It's more about minutes than
League
40, 50 games is much more beneficial in League One than
they're sixth in League One.
League One is really competitive. You know, teams like Portsmouth, Charlton, Barnsley, some big teams in there. I think that's it's a good level.
No, I think it's a really good loan, and it could be the making of him. It will toughen him up. You get a lot of minutes, a lot of experience.
And they're doing really well as well. So
just there was some words about should he have gone to a championship club, but no, I think it's a good loan.
We've seen previously Parrott did it at Mill, struggled to play and struggled at the level and then dropped down. You know, it's about minutes and game time. As
you say, he'll probably play. Rodon and Spence both at Leeds. They were both on loan together at Rennes. So they're like a pair. Yeah. They're like Etherington and Davies.
But buy one, get one free.
Okay, let's talk about the first team. We're going to go all the way back to Saturday. Solid performance against Bournemouth, bar sort of 15 minutes at the start of the second half, but you expect that when you're away from home and the team are 1-0 down at half time, they're going to come at you. They nearly scored just before half time, but overall I thought a fairly solid performance.
Yeah, it was. I think in the first couple of games of the season you could have seen those games go either way against Brentford and United. Against Bournemouth, it was the first game where I felt we were really in control. They had the one chance, like you mentioned, just before half time. But for the most part, we were in control. If they had equalised just after half time, very, very different game.
Yeah.
But they didn't. We hung in. Ange made some good substitutions. We regained control of the game and we just saw it out. And I just thought it was a really good, solid performance all round.
You talk about the substitutions. They just got on top, and I remember they got a throw, and I was thinking in my head, this is a really good time to make this sub. The fans were banging on the back of the stadium. The crowd was getting up, and it was like, just kill their momentum, make these subs now, and he did it. Look, I'm not saying I'm a Premier League manager, but it was good to see that he thinks like that, and that was a real momentum killer, and they didn't really do anything after that. But I mean, you agree, Jake, it was a good away performance.
I think professional is the word. It was, I think they had one shot on target just before half time. They didn't really look like scoring. And as I say, if we were a bit more clinical in the first half, the game would have been over at half time. We know about the Richarlison chance. I think Son had a chance, Maddison had a chance. We should have been 3 or 4 up, but he used the subs. He recognised the danger and brought on, who was it? Perisic, Højbjerg and Davis, 3 most experienced players.
Skip came on as well.
He recognised it, and I thought they all did really well actually.
Do you find what was interesting is think about the goals that we've scored this season, and particularly the last few. They seem to be from in or around the 6-yard box and just sort of trickling into the net almost, because the quality of the chance created.
Yeah.
It's like the Maddison goal, the Kulusevski goal, even Richarlison against Fulham was a header from inside the 6-yard box. The Davies own goal against United, they all just seem to trickle into the net. And it was just something I was thinking about, and even the Sarr goal, okay, he blasted it in, but that was from point blank range.
They're very high XG goals.
Yeah.
Which is a good sign.
I watched JJ Bull. He did another really good piece on Spurs tactics, and he's saying how he loves his wingers to go on the outside, which Kulusevski did against United. Although it was fairly easy for Kulusevski to do that against United because their left backs just disappeared, melted. And let's talk about Kulusevski, because I think he had a better game against Bournemouth, and it was good to see him score. But I'm not convinced he's an Ange person, because of the fact that he wants his wingers to go on the outside. I mean, Son's not going to do it either on that side, really. Maybe he'll have to change the way he plays, because he's not going to play like Celtic, because it's not as easy here. But I was on holiday and I was watching the game abroad and with a couple of other Spurs fans, and the bloke, every time Kulusevski got the ball, he just went, I know what he's going to do. Well, if we know what he's going to do, the Bournemouth defender, and every defender knows what he's going to do. He was mixing it up 18 months ago, or at the end of that Conte season when we did well. He was going outside, inside. Now he still goes onto that left foot a bit too much for me, and I think he's a little bit too obvious.
But he's the classic inverted winger where you play the wrong-footed winger, the opposite-footed winger on the wrong side. So they wanted, there was that fashion where they'd come in and bend it in with their actual sort of dominant foot, right? Whereas Ange doesn't want that. As
his finishing's not even good enough for that anyway.
He doesn't. He's got an okay left-footed shot.
I remember him ever having a shot on target from outside.
He scored against Leeds, didn't he? His first goal for us.
But the cut in, the classic, what Robin used to do. He cuts inside a lot, and it's finished. Yeah,
you want him to ping one into that far corner.
But he can go outside. I remember when he came on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He can.
When he came on against Leeds, it was I think
just before the
down.
World Cup.
Yeah, he set up both goals exactly that way.
By going outside and then cutting it back in the way that Ange would want. And if he can get back to that,
right, it's a confidence coaching thing, isn't it?
Yeah, he can do it.
Maybe bringing in Brennan Johnson could be, a good thing for him.
Yeah.
Actually, raise his levels a bit. He's not really ever had any competition. He's been at us 18 months. He's pretty much been Lucas Moura, Dan Juma.
I'm a huge Kulusevski advocate. I love him. I really love him. I've got a lot of time for him, and I think there's definitely a place for him in this team and certainly squad.
I think his celebration spoke volumes. It felt like a big relief. I think that was his first goal since Man City away in January. That's a long time not to score for an attacker.
And he was one of the ones that stepped up and took a good penalty against Fulham as well. He's the least of our concerns.
No, he is. He's absolutely the least of our concerns. But I think he's someone who needs to step up his game a little bit. We talked about Brennan Johnson. Let's talk a little bit about transfers. Ange, I don't think, wants a number 9. We'd all love to sign Vlahovic. He'll bang in a load of goals, I'm sure, if we were to sign him. We're not going to sign him. Linked with Brennan Johnson, linked with Ansu Fati, who is now seemingly going to go to Brighton. I'm not sure whether it was we were ever actually that close. From what I understand, we weren't that close. But it seems that Postecoglou doesn't want your traditional 9. We've talked about it ad nauseum on here. He wants winger forwards that can play across the line. Where are you on that?
I mean, we just sold Harry Kane.
Yeah, but who didn't play under Postecoglou?
But I don't know what to say.
You can't replace Harry Kane.
No, but I don't just mean that. We've technically got no recognised striker at the club.
No,
is Richarlison even a striker?
Yeah, of course he is.
It's Brazil's number 9.
But he spent most of his Premier League career at Everton playing on the left. I mean, look, I hope it can work. It just feels right now, whether we get Brennan Johnson or not, it feels like a massive risk when Kulusevski and Son are, been quite poor for about
in terms of
over
goals.
a year.
Yeah.
It just feels like a risk. I know we're never going to be able to replace Kane, and I know everyone's got a bit of a pipe dream with Ivan Toney, but it just felt like we just needed somebody in, just some a natural number 9, because the thought of having Richarlison there for the whole season is tough.
I'm going to stick up for him a little bit. I think there was a moment against Bournemouth where we were on the break and he made a ridiculous pass out right when the pass was to Maddison.
And then got booked.
And then came off.
He trips over the ball, didn't he?
And he tripped over the ball. I don't know trying to work out in my head here how I'm going to defend him. I feel like he gets a little... I watch Messi. I'm not putting them together, by the way. I watch Messi. I watch Messi and I'm like, fucking hell, that ball just falls to you all the time. He knows where to be in the right place. Of course he does. Richarlison, he did it against Bournemouth when I actually thought he was unlucky when he went round the keeper. And he fell over again, didn't he?
Took that first time.
I know, but then there's that moment when there's a rebound and he's just about there. He's not.
To be
quite
fair,
there.
if it was another player, if he'd scored, it would have looked like a really nice goal. The way
the little drag.
If it was another player, they would have just
buried it.
Just scored somehow.
I feel like I'm hoping that the goal against Fulham has done him the world of good. He needs to go on a run. Okay, I'm worried he might not go on a run. Personally, I think we could do a lot better. I feel we could do a lot worse. I think we're stuck with him now, quite frankly.
It's interesting, the whole thing, right? Because I don't know whether Ange wants a typical number 9 or not. From the rumours around the transfers, it sounds like not. I've got the sort of feeling that he's quite happy to either have Richarlison or Son through the middle. But you mentioned the goal against Fulham, and just after he's got that goal, and it was a much needed goal for him, Ange has taken him off. And that's off the back of having made 9 changes in a cup game. And we'll come back to transfers, but I just, there's been some talk about Ange and his decisions in that game. And I just wondered, where we're at with this. How are we feeling about him taking Richarlison off after Richarlison got the equaliser? Also, with the game sort of headed towards penalties, likely, do you not want your striker on the pitch to be one of them taking that penalty?
I don't get it. As a Sunday League centre forward, if you took me off just after I'd scored a goal, I'd be livid. And
he should have taken Dane Scarlett off.
Yeah, you can't take him off after having just brought him on.
Was about to loan him out to Ipswich. That whole thing was weird.
He didn't take a penalty, and he hardly had a kick. So
yeah, that was a weird substitution for me. Full stop. But we did this. Was it AVB Soldado? He's never scored any goals, but when he did, I think twice he scored, and the next week he was dropped and didn't play. The centre forward, if you score a goal with half an hour left, you don't expect to be dragged within the next 10 minutes.
You don't. This is the problem, right? You don't know, like, if Andrew's got in his head that actually he viewed, and quite possibly viewed, the game against Burnley as the more important one, wanted Richarlison for that.
Maybe he was always going to give Scarlett half an hour.
Well, Scarlett came on at half time.
Right? Half time, right?
Yeah, but it's the whole selection around that in a cup game seemed a bit odd, and he defended himself with, I need the opportunity to see the other players. And I think everybody said it's a big joke on sort of Twitter and around, like, well, we could have told you, mate, you only needed to ask. But he's got the right to assess them himself, right? He's got the right to look at them. But there is no coincidence that it's the same players who have featured in the starting lineups of all of our major disasters over the last few years.
He could have asked Ryan Mason, couldn't he?
I'm talking about, like, Sanchez and Davies and they've always been
it's the same names, isn't it?
And the problem is that since I think 2021, basically our whole starting lineup of our first 11, as I mentioned last week, is entirely new, with the exception of Son. But the drop off behind that,
it's
and you think about, we're going into our fourth game of the season. Before the game against United, we were sweating on the fitness of Romero, because without Romero, it ain't great. Before the game against Bournemouth, we're sweating on the fitness of Maddison, because without Maddison, it ain't great. Van de Ven limped off yesterday, and everybody's going to be asking in the press conference today of Ange, is Van de Ven fit? And if he
was it that bad? I
think he'll be all right. But
I'm sure he will be. But the point is,
yeah,
before every single game, and this is in a shortened season, really. For
and
us.
Romero and Maddison have both had, quite a few injuries.
And there's going to
and
Bissouma, and any time any one of these players is out, and we saw it against Fulham, and okay, that was wholesale 9 changes, but if Bissouma is injured and Bentancur isn't fit to play in the 6 and take the ball off the defence and beat that first man, you've got Højbjerg, who we saw the other night.
Well, we know that he's going to be off in January for a month with the AFCON.
But Basuma and Sarr.
And Son.
But hopefully by then you'd have
Cup.
Bentancur back. But the point that I'm making is the first 11 looks okay. It looks all right. Richarlison, no Richarlison, whatever you want to say about that. It looks okay, but the drop-off behind it is frightening.
All right, so that brings on to a couple of things. Transfers. Still need to get all those players out. God, we've been saying it since we started this pod 3.5 months ago, whenever it was. They're all still here, apart from basically Winks and the Spence Road on double act. And obviously Kane's gone.
I'm pretty sure when I'm 80 on my deathbed, Dyer's still going to be here.
And
We're going to have the same
refusing to leave.
conversations next summer because they're all on loan.
That's a real problem. You loan them out.
Well,
You just
you've got Spence and Roden for a start, and Dombele's obviously going to leave on loan. Reguilon probably going to leave on loan.
you just shunt the problem forward 12 months.
You're just waiting for him to be out of contract.
But the other thing it does bring forward is that we've started the season really well, and everyone's loving Ange, and Robbie Williams does a song, and everyone's happy. And then we go to Fulham and we get knocked out of the cup, and people you see on Twitter, people have lost their shit and don't love Ange anymore. For me, the jury's still out on Ange. He's been here 4 games. It's brilliant what he's done, and the mood is better. And I see the project and what's happening. We could get to November and we might not win another game. I don't think that's going to happen. So the jury, it's not the fact the jury's out. I'm waiting to see what happens, and it looks great. This isn't going to happen overnight. But the management of this squad, again, we're a day before the transfer window closes, and the squad is still full of rubbish. I know Forest is probably hard to deal with Brennan Johnson. He's one of their own. He's been there since he was 9. They've got a very tough chairman. Him and Levy negotiating must be incredible to watch.
Well, we know that because of Jed Spence.
Right. But what?
Yeah.
I know it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and say, why didn't you sign him 3 weeks ago? But I'm going to. Why didn't we sign him 3 weeks ago? Like, other clubs, in my opinion, would have got him in by now. And he'll come in, and he might come in.
But other clubs haven't got him in.
No, but I feel there are other clubs that just get their shit done. And we know routinely.
Chelsea yesterday signed Cole Palmer in about 6 hours.
Yeah, it was read. The way I read it from Fabrizio Romano was like they basically just rang each other up and went, "We want him. Oh, fine, we'll sell him. It's done."
Because we're always trying to get it a little bit cheaper. That's why we're always trying to get him under their asking price.
The back and forth over sort of transfers doesn't bother me too much. I think if you adopt the view on every transfer of just pay the money and get it done, then over the course of time that's gonna hamstring you. My bigger issue is actually, as long as we end up with the players in the squad that we need and we get there in the end, like fine, it actually hasn't hurt us too much in the league
so far.
And the only other game that we're going to have is Burnley away, which you know, regardless, we'd hope we could win. But if we come to the end of the deadline and our third choice centre back for the season is Davinson Sanchez, and if we come to the end of the deadline and we haven't got Brennan Johnson, I don't even think Brennan Johnson's a world beater, but I can well understand why Ange would want him. But if you don't get him and you're left with just Kulusevski, who is injury prone, like, you know, you got to get. If we're sat here next week and Davinson Sanchez is our third choice centre back, there is simply no excuse for that. I don't care if the guy comes in, whoever it is, the centre back comes in at 10:59 tomorrow evening. Don't care if it's as late as that. I do care if Davinson Sanchez is our third centre back, because it just cannot be that we're going into the season with that. If we end up with Johnson and a centre back, I'd say okay, any transfer window could be better, but actually we look all right for a 38 game season plus FA Cup. But
isn't it frustrating that we have to wait? I know we've done okay in the league so far, and as you said, there's one more game, and if players come in, they might miss one more game. But Ange has got they're all going to go off international duty. He's got to get his system onto these new players. We do this all the time. We're always underprepared going into the season.
Yeah, but I think so many teams are.
But I'm talking about Tottenham. I don't care what others are doing.
The season finished 3 months ago. We conceded 60-something goals, the worst in 15 years. We knew we needed minimum 2 centre backs, probably 3, and we signed 1. We got 1 day left.
He's good, by the way. I'm pleased with that.
He's phenomenal.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, he looks really good.
But that is staggering. The end of last season, that should have been it for Dyer and Sanchez. It should have been it. Let alone Sanchez, costing us a League Cup game.
And this is the problem,
Crazy.
is Van der Ven's a young kid. It's his first season in the Premier League. To ask him to play 38 league games is a huge ask. To ask Romero to play 38 league games is a huge ask. To ask Udogie to play 38 league games, and the drop-off after Udogie is frightening as well, right? So
I think Davies is all right.
Oh, come on, mate.
Not anymore.
I said all right.
I think there's more chance that Sessegnon comes back and hopefully
No,
steps up.
I'm not having that guy.
No,
sorry.
but
Sorry.
Like Davies isn't the one. Neither is Sessegnon, right? This is the point that I'm making. The drop-offs throughout this squad, the drop-offs throughout this squad are frightening. Now, hopefully, we'll be all right this season because it is a shorter season. But you're asking a lot of young guys.
All right, so it's a short season, just got shorter. So let's talk about Tuesday night. You were there, Gary, when you saw the team come out and you were in the pub or wherever you were before the game. When I saw the team, I wasn't there, I was still away. I turned around to my dad and I was like, I know what's going to happen here. We're going to play the way we played for the last 4 years. And I didn't see it again. You tell me that's how it's seen. We had no forward momentum from the midfield. That was probably the major problem.
I think we know what's going to happen when you start Højbjerg and Skip in midfield. These are two players who are defensively minded. They don't really, they're risk averse.
Skip's playing in a more advanced role though as well.
Yeah, and when you see the first goal against Bournemouth, Basuma takes that ball, and his first thought is
to go forward.
Forward, does that lovely little shift, and he goes forward. Skip came on against Bournemouth, and I know that we were winning, and he's there to protect the lead. His first thought is backwards.
Yeah, backwards.
It's because he's not technically good enough to do that.
Yeah,
and I think people were upset with the performances of Solomon and Lo Celso, but they didn't get any service. They didn't get the ball. They didn't get the ball from the guys behind them. Sanchez can't pass out of defence. Royale can't pass out of defence. Davies can't pass out of defence.
The supply was coming from Van der Ven.
Yeah, it was Van der Ven. That was it. Like they weren't getting. It was a poor performance, but it was a performance that I think we could all have seen coming when we saw the lineup. You're not going to play Ange Ball with Højbjerg and Skip, which is why I'm fully in favour of Højbjerg going, even if that leaves us a little bit short. Like if Atletico Madrid want to come in with 30 million obligation and a loan this season.
You don't think there's something in that Højbjerg is someone that he's brought on in these games when we're winning and go, right, just, shore this up for us? I think there's something to be said for that.
Funnily enough, I thought Sarr was more of a 6 than he is the role that he has been playing. So I think going forwards, you've got Sarr that could do that. You've got Bentancur will come back. Even Skip in that 6 role rather than the 8 role
for 15 minutes.
For 15 minutes,
yeah.
Like, I don't think if you've got the opportunity of 30 million plus for Højbjerg,
yeah.
I'm not sat there going, oh yeah, but he might come on 15 minutes and close out a game. Come on now, like he's got to go, and he's never going to be that player that is suited for Ange Ball. So I'm fully in favour of him going. Look, the Fulham performance is disappointing, so we wanted to go far in that cup.
What was the atmosphere like when we were playing? Was there frustrations? Did it feel like a game from last year, the year before?
I thought the away fans were good. I think we were mostly singing throughout. I was frustrated watching it. I think everybody was frustrated because it clearly wasn't good enough at any point in the game. We didn't really.
And you could tell it was happening early.
Yeah.
You had that familiar Middlesbrough, Sheffield United.
But I think you could tell before kickoff. Like I was saying, you look at the team.
But under another new manager, you hope that it will be different. You go, you got this one and Perisic, and Solomon got something to prove against Fulham and Lo Celso. And 10 minutes in, I thought, oh God, I can see where this is going quickly. And it was such a clunky, disjointed performance.
Even our goal came against 10 men with a bit of fortune.
That summed the game up.
Yeah, Geezer went off with a torn boot and
then scored the winning penalty.
Where were you on the lineup? 9 changes is too many, right?
It's just unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary. I mean, you could see the reaction. The frustrating thing for me was you heard a lot of Ange, as football fans like to say, gets it, and it felt like he really does get it already, and he just got that so horribly wrong. It was just like, even if we were in Europe, I'd say don't make 9 changes. Other Premier League clubs didn't make as many, and it just felt like 3 too many. 6 changes is fine, half and half. A couple of experienced guys come in, play Son, play a Bissouma, but it was just so disjointed. It was a whole new back 5 essentially, 3 midfielders that haven't started a game this season. A guy on his debut, a Perisic who's not played a game this season or started a game, and Richarlison who's low on confidence. It wasn't.
You made a great point before we started recording about our 3 captains. None of them actually being on the pitch. That says a lot,
don't it? Yeah. I always used to say that back in the day, if Harry Kane doesn't start a game, it can't be that big of a game. It can't be that important of a game. And it felt like that. 3 captains, none of them are starting. How? As in, it was important to us, but to the manager, how important was that to him?
Yeah.
First sub, Dane Scarlett on at half time.
Look, I think
now he's going.
I think Ange might take the view, I'm here for 4 years and I need to take the opportunities to assess my squad, and I'm sure that he's here to win trophies and he wants to win trophies. I don't know. I think to him it might have been more important on this particular occasion to see some of the more fringe players. But ultimately, as a fan, you want to go deep, particularly in a season with no Europe. But at the same time, people forget that the last 10 years, this tournament's been won 6 times by City and once by United, Liverpool and Chelsea. It's not as though if we had gone deep, suddenly we're in with a chance of... I mean, we're obviously always in with a chance of winning it, but it's no given thing.
No, of course not. I think the frustration was we were on such a high, probably from United win and Bournemouth win, and we feel like we've moved away from these away performances. Easily avoidable.
That was the thing.
If he'd played most of the strongest team and we'd lost, I think we'd have all been annoyed that we lost, but not annoyed at the situation that we left ourselves in, which is playing those players that we know let you down every single time.
As a fan, I always look at that scenario and think, what is the risk reward in terms of the risk is you go out and you have this. But I understand, if even if we'd gone through, if Maddison had played and got injured, everyone would have gone mad. But what's an hour in Maddison and Basuma and Son's legs? Really, in the grand scheme, we're playing on a Tuesday, then a Saturday, then it's an international break with no Europe. What? What's an hour?
I said on Twitter, it's like it's his Sheffield United and Zagreb moment. It's a bit of an exaggeration. But that's what I'm saying. We want to come away from that. The Middlesbrough, we want to come away from all that. We feel like we've moved on from that, getting rid of Conte and Mourinho, got this guy in, like you said. We think he gets it, and then he reverts back to that type. It's like PTSD.
The only positive for me is hopefully when the FA Cup comes around, no more funny business again.
Yeah.
Well, the FA Cup comes around, I think, during the AFCON and the Asian Cup.
It's just before. It's a
the
week
third
before.
round is, but the fourth round...
The fourth round is, will be without Basuma, Sarr, Son, probably.
Depending on how far they go, yeah.
No doubt Arsenal get Shrewsbury at home and we get United away in the fourth round, and, standard.
Yeah. Okay, so that takes us on to Saturday. When we've had these... last year, when we had the Sheffield United debacle, we then lost 1-0 at Wolves, barely laid a glove. And then we had that wonderful 0-0 draw at home to Milan when we needed a goalie chucked on Davinson Sanchez.
Naturally.
It will all... it's a natural sub. It's a natural sub. Of course it is. You bring on a guy who's prepared to take your third penalty against Fulham.
And we had 10 men as well.
That was disaster. It's about... If we go to Burnley and play like we've done certainly against United and Bournemouth, all will be forgotten. But I do feel a little bit of... The air has gone out of it because of what happened on Tuesday. I think from the fans, the players and the club may not feel like that at all. I think now there's a little bit more jeopardy on Saturday. But if we go out and play like we've played against Burnley, and it's a pretty good fixture for us, they're struggling, probably all will be forgotten.
I don't think the air's gone out of it. I think a lot's been made of going out the cup, and it's disappointing. But ultimately, if we go away to Burnley, and we're clearly going to play our strongest team available, and we go and get 3 points. And even if we don't, so long as we play good football in the way that we know, then I think
a lot of fans would have taken this start if we win on Saturday, even going out the cup.
100%.
3 away games, 10 points, and the atmosphere and the vibe.
100%.
I know we're throwing away one of the cups that we're desperate to win, but a lot would have taken it. We spoke a few weeks ago saying, we could be on 2 points from 4 games easily.
Yeah, and I think if we go up to Burnley and we put in a good performance and we get that win, and I expect us to as well, I don't think the air has been sucked out of it at all. I think we have to think about we're on. I hate to sort of use not puns. I can't think of what, but cliches. We're on a journey, okay, or process.
That's not cliche.
Or trust the process.
That's a cliche.
All of that sort of stuff, right? And we just have to appreciate that there will be bumps in the road, but generally we can already see very, very quickly what Ange wants to do, what he's trying to do, where he's hoping to go with it. The only thing I hope is a couple of transfers in before Burnley that give a little bit more depth to an otherwise not such a deep squad. Good performance against Burnley, and I think we can really look forward with a lot of optimism.
As I was just going to quickly say, you mentioned before it was avoidable. It feels like a bigger game for Ange now.
That's what
Saturday,
I was saying.
It's really, it feels like there's I'm not saying if we lose, people will be calling for his head, but there's an unnecessary amount of pressure on him now. If you make 11 changes and essentially chuck a cup away, you better go and win the next game.
I'm kind of there,
especially
guys.
before an international break.
I agree with that. I do feel the air has gone out a little bit. It can't not. Look, we easily could have won on penalties, and we wouldn't be talking about any of these changes. We're going, oh, why he did? He's lucky, but he did it. I think he got it wrong. So I think it's natural to think he's made a mistake there. We said it off air, and I've seen a lot on Twitter. That one was on Ange. And I'm not for 1 second saying we're now going to go and repeat that performance. We're much more likely to repeat the Bournemouth performance and the United performance, but we kind of have to now.
Yeah, but I think we will, because that's the way we're going to play, right?
That's why we're also pissed off with Tuesday, because we went back to how we used to play, and we thought we'd thrown that away.
With all the players that used to play that way. So that's what Ange knows now. Like, he's seen it, he knows. Right?
It feels like a massive waste.
He knows. I reckon in his head right now, he's going, oh, mate, if I've got a couple of players out and I've got to throw these idiots in, we're fucked.
Yeah, well, it's almost like
as good a coach as you want, but if you've got players that can't do it, they can't do it.
It should almost be like the old days now, where we just play, as long as they're injury and suspension free, just pick the 14 players all season.
So that's it. That
should not be any changes for weeks ahead.
Exactly that.
There's no one that maybe the right back.
Even if
no one else.
Even if Brennan Johnson comes in, he's got a hamstring at the minute, right?
Oh, no, he played for Burnley.
He played last night.
He played for Forest against Burnley.
Did he really?
Last night,
yeah.
Oh, okay, good news. I didn't realise
He's going away with Wales as well, so that could be.
Okay,
that's where he'll get the problem then.
No, but that could hopefully is good. If he
okay,
signs,
but even if he signs, you'd expect him to start on the bench. It should be a really settled 11. It just should.
No, but I don't mind
one
one change. Johnson for a Richarlison or Kulusevski.
Yeah, but for the most part, it really settled 14-15. Let's say that. There's no reason, really, outside of bad injury problems or suspensions.
Right.
That
That's how Leicester won the title.
That's how Arsenal did so well last year.
I'm pretty sure it's how Chelsea won the title under Conte, because they didn't
barely made any changes.
Barely made any changes. No Europe, right? Nobody here is saying we're winning the title before we start getting comments, right?
No.
But ultimately, it should be a really settled 15.
We're going to be top of the least changes table, aren't we?
Hopefully. It just should be. It's
Arsenal were last
season.
Yeah. Barely made any changes.
There's just no need, though. There's just no need.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if we lose a game, there's no need.
No, and that's the point, right? Is you get in that centre back, the right midfielder, and suddenly you've got a squad of 14, 15 players that you can really rely on, and then you can build on that in terms of starting 11 or squad strength. And next season, when hopefully we will be in Europe, and you've got a squad of 20 odd players, right? Yeah. But this season, 14, 15 players should be enough to get us through. Yeah, we just need to make sure that we get that centre back right. I can't say enough. I'd be furious if we go this time next week. If we've got Sanchez as third centre back, I cannot tell you how angry I'm going to be.
There's only one that's been linked, and that's Tosin at Fulham.
Yeah,
there might be a rabbit out there.
You'll be more furious if Romero gets injured and Sanchez is starting.
Yeah, well,
that's the point.
Exactly. That's my point. That's my example. Or if Van der Ven gets injured and suddenly Romero's got to play left centre back, or Sanchez.
It's so close to the end of the window, and I know Tosin's been floated around. Maybe he's going to Monaco, maybe he's not. We got 36 hours left, and I know Danjuma came out late on in January, but usually now, if a name's not out there, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
which makes you think that Dyer and Sanchez and are going to stay, and we're going to be.
Well, but then they're being offered left, right, and centre. Apparently, all the rumours are that they're being offered here, there, and everywhere, which would make you think that we've got something lined up.
We're offering them.
Well, there you go. Our first show, we talked about the 5 that had to go, and I think on the top of my head, they're all still here.
Was Reguilon, Lloris, and Ndombele.
It was
Sanchez, Dyer, and
we did 5. We did Lloris and Ndombele. Reguilon.
Lascelles was in there.
I think I can't remember.
Well, Sanchez was definitely
on there.
And maybe Dyer was in there.
Yeah, I think you wanted Dyer on there, and they're all still here.
Yeah.
It's a bad squad management.
Like I say, I'll be 80 and they'll still be here.
Right, so we've had our little look at Saturday. As I always say, I'm appreciative of your expertise on the matter. But we're going to talk now to someone who knows Burnley really, really well. Delighted to be joined on the show by Northwest journalist Adam Cottier. Adam, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi there, guys. You okay?
Yeah. Listen, Burnley in a similar situation to Tottenham. A new manager come in, ripping up the old blueprint. Obviously, Burnley are further ahead in their situation with Company coming in last season. But what's the mood there after a difficult start to the Premier League season?
Slightly concerned, I think, by the start, given they've conceded 6 goals in the 2 games they played. They obviously had the unplanned break with not playing away at Luton in the second game. So too early probably to judge where Burnley are at. For me, and talking to fans as well, they have lost key players from last season and maybe not replaced them. Leadership is a key thing for Burnley at the moment. Taylor Harwood-Bellis was a huge part of what they did last season at the back in terms of the way he played and fitting into Vincent Kompany's system, the leadership that he brought. They haven't replaced him. Nathan Teller, their top scorer from last season, has obviously moved on to Germany, and they weren't able to sign him from Southampton. And then you've got players like Ian Maatsen as well, who looks to be breaking into the Chelsea first team picture at the moment. So there are really good players that were involved in what they did last season that are not in their team now. Vincent Kompany's also changed the goalkeeper, James Trafford, who is inexperienced and obviously had a great World Cup with a European Championship rather with England in the summer, but is a fresh face. And I think some fans are a bit perplexed as to why Aro Muric, who didn't really put a foot wrong last season, has now been replaced by a relative rookie.
It's a club that's undergone a huge transformation over the last couple of years. It's not the Burnley that we've recognised from previous Premier League years, and one of that is new owners, ALK Capital, coming in 2020. Been watching a little bit of Mission to Burnley. It's interesting stuff. How are they being received? What's the general mood about the feeling of the ownership, the direction they're going, and what their aspirations are?
Well, the fans have enjoyed the ride that they've been on. When they were relegated in May 2022, after Sean Dyche had been sacked, I think there was a bit of uncertainty about the direction the club was going in, but obviously they hit the jackpot really with appointing Vincent Kompany. He in himself, because of who he is, brings a lot of profile to the football club. So Burnley's been put on the map a little bit more, if that makes sense. You'll see games where American influencers and they've got involved with American football players and basketball players and things like that. So the profile of the football club has really been raised by Kompany's arrival. So the fans are enjoying it, but the Premier League's a different animal to the Championship, and Burnley are finding that out. And I think the transfer window is important for them.
They've been linked with Eric Dyer today. Is that someone you think they need?
Again, going back to the leadership thing, absolutely. I think he fits the profile of what Vincent Kompany will look for. Obviously, he was a leader himself. He'll want leaders in his team, and I don't think he's got that. Jack Cork and Josh Brownhill shared the captaincy last season. Cork is in his 30s now and hasn't been involved. Josh Brownhill's lost his place in the team at the moment. Josh Cullen, who you'll know from West Ham, who was their player of the year last year, was magnificent and hasn't started this season particularly brightly. So, yeah, Eric Dyer is someone that would fit the bill. Whether they can get him or not, I don't know.
Adam, we've obviously gone away from this, Sean Dyche more defensive style of play to this, Vincent Kompany more expansive risk-reward. What have the fans sort of made of it? And, obviously 6 goals conceded already. Is it sustainable this season, or is it, a bit of a concern, the step up in quality?
Yeah. I think that's the million-dollar question with Burnley. Does Vincent Kompany need to adapt his style that was so successful last season? I think he's quite rigid in the way he wants to play. They need a goal scorer as well. Lyle
Don't we all?
Has started the season, scored against Aston Villa, but didn't pull up many trees last year. It was the goals were were Teller and Benson and Zaruri, and you look into those players again, those wing forward type players that supplied the goals. They haven't found a number 9 yet, really.
Adam, got you on for your extensive knowledge of the Northwest game, and great to hear your thoughts on Burnley, but I know you personally as a Blackburn fan. There's a few links with the two clubs in recent times. We signed Ash Phillips from Blackburn, and obviously Blackburn have got Dylan Markandale and Tom Bloxham, two ex-Spurs players. Just give us a little bit of insight on Phillips and also the two guys playing for Blackburn at the moment.
Well, I'll start with Markandale. He was injured on his debut when he moved from Spurs after that January move. And he didn't recover in time before the end of the season. And then he had a really disappointing loan spell at Aberdeen last season. And there was speculation that Yondell Thomason wasn't a fan and he didn't fit into the Rovers system. But because of by nature of the way the summer went for Rovers and players departing, Markandale's got his chance to shine now. He scored against Harrogate in the League Cup. He's obviously a talent, but his future, I'm not sure. When players come back, we've got two players out injured at the moment. It's down to him basically to show Yondell Thomason. He often says, the manager, that the team picks itself. I don't pick the team, and Markande's in that bracket of players who have got to show him what they can do. Bloxham's obviously a young player. Again, scored against Harrogate, so time will tell with him. And obviously Spurs have got Ash Phillips, and Phillips hasn't had a lot of game time in the Rovers team. Has been a talent that was well known about in the youth setup. Made his first team debut last season. I think he probably got a handful of appearances, maybe 10. Kept out of the team by the quality of the defenders we've already got. And Rovers, I think the disappointment with the Rovers fans is that we didn't get a huge fee for him.
Well, look, a good decent start for Blackburn this season. Decent start for Spurs. Just going back to Saturday's game, little prediction from you, knowing Burnley like you do.
Well, Spurs have struggled at Burnley, haven't they, in recent times? You remember obviously towards the end of the Sean Dyche reign when you lost 1-0 there.
Oh, Conte had his meltdown.
Like we said, it's not a Sean Dyche Burnley team anymore at all. And obviously Spurs are flying. I think Spurs will have enough to get past Burnley at the weekend.
Oh, we hope so.
I'd hope so.
I hope so. Adam, thanks so much for joining us. Great to get your thoughts on Burnley and a little chat about Blackburn. Thanks so much for coming on.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, Adam.
All the best. Cheers.
Good to talk to Adam about Burnley and also about Blackburn. But on Burnley, we asked him about Eric Dyer, and then I was just looking on my laptop here. It looks like we've rejected a loan bid from Burnley. Maybe we can just drive him there and leave him there even after the window's closed.
Maybe that just means we're not getting a centre back. I mean,
it doesn't feel like it, does it?
No, I'm going to be honestly fuming.
Why are we rejecting a loan bid? Reportedly rejecting a loan bid from
He's
Burnley?
out of contract next year.
So?
But we obviously don't want to get nothing for him.
We're not going to get any money for
mate,
between
makes
now.
no difference. Just get rid of him.
We were haggling over $1 million with Ash Phillips.
If the whole deal is right that we can't bring players in until we've got players out, then just get him out.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying. I'm just
Maybe
explaining their reasons.
I just can't get my head around why we would reject a loan bid from anyone.
Dyer's been linked with Bayern Munich and Burnley in the same day. That's a new one. In the same day.
Never thought I'd hear that
Imagine
sentence.
the sort of power that Harry Kane must have at Bayern Munich for him to go.
My mate.
He just wanted.
I wanted to get my mate
out,
here,
didn't they?
And they're already going. Whatever you want, Harry. Whatever you want. What, Eric Dyer? Really, Harry? Yeah. I mean, how much power must he have there already?
But also mentioned another centre half with Adam, Ash Phillips. We've said it with you on the show as well. Didn't play much at Blackburn.
No.
But he seemed to think there's something there. So I don't know. Maybe if they do get rid of one of them, he'll get bumped up the list. But it's interesting to talk to Adam about how Burnley are trying to still play the same way they played last year, and I don't think it's going to work for them.
It's one of. I can almost sort of relate it to what we're trying to do, and against most teams like Burnley, like Bournemouth, what we're trying to do, because of the quality of player that we have in our first 11, we should beat most of these teams. When we come up against the Cities, the Liverpools, the other lot. That could be when we get undone. And I do think about, where did it go wrong for let's say Pochettino when he was here? Most of the time we were beating most of the teams that we would, but we fell short because he was so insistent on playing the way that he knows, and he was so not yielding on changing that actually when we came up for the most part against better footballing teams, and we knocked City out across 2 legs in the Champions League, but when we went toe to toe with better teams, we generally got unstuck.
And that's what Bayern demolished us.
Yeah, and exactly. And versus the last couple of years against City when we've camped on the edge of our box and beaten them 1-0 somehow, right? I'm not saying that's the right way, but when you come back to Burnley, the concern has to be that the quality of player that they've got just isn't going to be as high as a lot of the other teams.
You need good attacking players to play that way.
You need good technical players throughout the team, players that can take the ball under pressure in any situation and pick the pass and not shit their pants and whatever, right? Which is why Højbjerg and Skip don't work for us, right? So for Burnley, if I was a Burnley fan, I'd be very concerned that if Company is going to be unyielding on changing the way that they play, and keep in mind how the likes of Burnley and Stoke and so on stayed in the Premier League for as long as they did. They did so by being horrible to play against.
Brentford came in and sort of played this sort of front foot. Well, actually, no, I think but Brentford played a slightly different style to Burnley, and it's worked.
Brentford is still very direct.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, Burnley need to probably mix it up a little bit more than they're doing, and maybe they'll start on Saturday.
And if they don't,
hopefully they don't.
Hopefully they don't. And it was my concern for Bournemouth when we were listening to last week about Paul was, and he was saying about how they play with organised chaos and all of that. And I said straight after, it almost sounds like Ange, but if that's how they're going to play, I'd expect us to thump them, because we just should be beating these teams that want to play football. Well, we should be a better footballing team than most of these, and we come up unstuck against Liverpool and City.
Are we going to come away from Turf Moor without our manager having a meltdown this time?
Yes.
Was it there where it was the beginning of the end for Pochettino?
He had the row with Mike Dean.
It was there, wasn't it? Yeah.
Not the beginning of the end, but it was. During that rotten week where we lost to Chelsea.
I do see that as the beginning of the end. It all starts to run over for Pochettino there. It was actually the beginning of Conte's great run when he had his meltdown after 1-0 there, and then we went on the run through to the end of the season.
Joe's had a meltdown as well, like we said with Ndombele.
He dragged him off
just before COVID.
Yeah.
An exciting place, Turf Moor, for us, isn't it?
We have one there. It's not the worst ground for us. But
Paulinho's shot. Does anyone remember that?
Mate, do you know what? I was actually referencing that this week because Højbjerg had a chance against Fulham.
Oh, when he should have passed it.
Yeah, he had two. One where he sort of volleyed it from way out over the bar,
but one where actually,
he was like on the right hand side. No, I just should have buried it bottom corner.
Or if you watch it back, Scarlett had a tap in.
Yeah, fine. But what he actually did was really tentatively play a side foot shot that ended up about 7 yards wide.
It was awful.
And I said it wasn't quite, and I actually referenced that Paulinho shot this week. I said it wasn't quite as bad.
It was like he did it on purpose.
It was
so bad.
It was pathetic. I said the only shot I've seen that is worse than that effort from Højbjerg was Paulinho away at Burnley.
Who's going to be this weekend's?
Well, did you see the Everton bloke last night have the same shot?
No.
30 million quid. And he shanked the corner flag, but he then went and scored a nice goal. We've had some interesting games. I think Son scored a header at Burnley, which is a weird place for Son to score a header.
And of course, Burnley was the opposition at home that he scored the
Puskás
goal against,
with Vertonghen's assist.
He referenced that the other day.
He did, yeah.
I can't remember what. Maybe it was.
He did reference that the other
he
day.
said he definitely said something on Twitter about it.
Yeah, he did reference it. He says it was all about the assist. If you know, or something like that.
Oh, there must have been a similar sort of amazing goal where someone's
It was a wonderful assist.
I think I'm going to start with a prediction this week. I'm not going to go last. I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win 3-0.
Bloody hell.
Ooh.
Oh, come on. All right, 3-1.
2-0. 2-0 us.
I'll go 3-1.
Yeah.
Full house.
I think we had a full house against Bournemouth.
The point is that we should be beating these teams.
Yeah,
we just should be.
This is not a typical Burnley from the last.
Exactly.
No, if it was
we should be going there expressing.
If it was a Sean Dyche Burnley,
controlling the game, we've got one of the best creators in the league.
Exactly.
In our team.
I'm much more worried about Sheffield United in our next league game because.
I'm not.
I don't know about that.
Well, I am because
They're terrible.
Yeah, but they're sitting.
They will sit.
They're sitting.
Didn't cross the halfway line against City for 75 minutes.
And they nearly got a point. That's my point, right? They're going to sit in. They'll be hard to break down. They've got some big lumps like up front that they get it up to. I'm more worried about Sheffield United than I'm about Burnley, because Burnley will try and play football, and we ought to.
If you're worried about Sheffield United at home, this is going to be a long old season.
That was the end. That was the end for Pochettino, by the way. The last time he played them at home.
I think I think we beat Sheffield United as well.
I know
but
what you're saying.
I have more concerns about the difficulty of that game than Burnley. If it was a Sean Dyche Burnley that we were going up and playing on the weekend, I'd be sat here going, we should win. But you can see how we don't.
Yeah.
It's weird for Burnley because the quirk of the fixture list with the Luton postponement means they've had 3 league games all at home.
Yeah.
And if you think about our start, it's actually been really tough. Our only home game has been United. All of our other games, we played 5 games after Saturday. 4 away from home.
I don't think anyone else in the Prem's done that.
I think it's an absolute...
Of course not.
It's a disgrace that we were...
Well, it's because half the teams aren't in the Cup yet.
But we were away from home first game of the league season, away from home last game of the league season.
Well, the positive spin on that means you got more home games in between to get your points.
But there has to be an advantage to being at home on the last day or at home on the first day. It's a little bit like against Fulham. I said to my brother who I went with, I don't know what happened in that toss, that they've won it to get it down their end and we go second.
Someone's referenced that on Twitter, that you should not be able to take first and get it in front of your fans.
What happened in that toss?
You get one or the other. You win the toss, you choose the end, and then the other team takes first.
You're right, because if it had been in front of our fans, Sanchez would have levered it into the top right corner.
You get the point, though.
Yeah, no, 100%. How the hell have we managed that? As soon as I saw that, I was like, what's gone on in that centre circle for that to have come about?
By the way, why is he taking third? Obviously, he's obviously must have scored a few in training, but there's a couple of reports that have come out that no one else put their hand up. What's that about?
I mean, it wasn't exactly the list of players, but I get, you're looking at a Højbjerg or a Davis at least,
Scarlett's a centre forward. I know he's young, but he's a centre forward.
Did Davis not take one in the end?
No.
So Davis should have stepped up.
Scarlett was just weird. Up. And I'm not blaming Maddison, but how did Maddison take ahead of Sanchez? That was like...
He should just never have taken one. He'd have been 11th on my list.
I felt sorry for him, and I'm not a fan, but I did. He shouldn't be put in that position. And
as much as I've had a go, I haven't actually had a go at him. I've said the need for a third centre back. We all know it. But what I would say for Sanchez is that he does step up. He does put himself there. He never shies away.
He's top class attitude.
You'd love
him. I
him.
don't rate him at all, but he's got a brilliant attitude. He is. The fact that he came back from that Bournemouth game takes a lot of guts.
You want him to do well.
By his own fans. Fair play to him.
I'd love for him to do well and be good enough because his attitude.
But he's just not.
But he's not.
Just not.
And that's it. He's not good.
All right, well, let's see if he's here or not next week. I've got a feeling he will be. Will be here next week. Line up to be decided. Don't know yet. Might like Postecoglou.
Can we not be sold one day to another club?
Who?
Us?
You? Yeah.
I'd love to be.
What, a club that wins something?
Fans are just stuck.
Well, this is it. We are, and this is why we're here, and
we should be more upbeat. We've had if we win Saturday,
it's a great start
since I don't know.
I thought you were going to tell me there.
I don't know. 4 out of 4 under.
4 unbeaten.
09 at 10. We won our first 4 games, did we not?
No, we've drew with Brentford.
No, but I'm saying since then.
No, but we had a great start last season.
Yeah, no, we won all 3 1-0 against under Nuno, didn't we win?
No, but I was meaning after 4 games, because then we lost the 4th.
I don't know. But it will be a good start, and like I say, full house. I think we'll beat Burnley, and we'll discuss it next week. The transfer window closes. Maybe a busy 36 or so hours, maybe a dead 36 hours. But gentlemen, thank you for coming on, and we will see you next week. And up the Spurs.